Israel. And today's lesson is, should we obey the law? A New Testament version. Does the New Testament teach we should obey the Torah? Our opening passage is 1 John 3:4. Whosoever committeth sin transgresseth also the law, for sin is the transgression of the law. This is a very important verse, as John clearly states exactly what sin is. We're going to look up the word transgress. Webster's defines the word transgress as to pass over or beyond any limit to surpass. In a moral sense, to overpass any rule prescribed as the limit of duty, to break or violate a law, civil or moral. By the word transgress being used, it must be some type of limit or regulation on what is acceptable to the Creator, since it's His law that's being transgressed. The book of Romans 3:31. Do we then make void the law through faith? Elohim forbid. Yea, we establish the law. Paul asks a question. If you have faith, is the law now useless? That's what he's asking in this passage. And he answers it for you. He says no. By no means. He said, Elohim forbid. Our faith doesn't negate the fact that Yahweh gave a law. Yahweh Elohim gave a law, and it must be followed. Romans 4:15 says, because the law worketh wrath, for where no law is, there is no transgression. Yahweh Elohim has set limits for man by His law. When we go beyond them, there is punishment. But you cannot break a law which doesn't exist. Because He clearly states that where there is no law, there is no transgression. We define transgression as going beyond a limit. The limit is the law. So there is no limit. Where there is no limit, you can't go beyond it. It's just that simple. If sin is breaking Elohim's law, so sin is breaking Elohim's law, but we are not under the law. How do we sin? That's a question. If sin is breaking Yahweh's law, but people say we're not under the law, how do we sin? And in effect, they're saying there is no more sin because we're not under the law. There's no law to transgress. We can't sin. It's impossible. One can't exist without the other. Romans 5:13 says, for until the law, sin was in the world, but sin is not imputed where there is no law. And I looked up the word imputed. In the Greek term, the word is elagio, and it means to reckon in, that is attribute, to impute, put on account. This verse shows the mercy of Yahweh Elohim. It shows that Yahweh's law was being broken even before He gave it at Mount Sinai. Before Mount Sinai, before He came down on Mount Sinai to give His law to Israel, because that's who He gave it to. Before He did it, His law was broken already. But He didn't impute or He didn't punish anyone for the breaking of His law, since He didn't give it at that time to man. So, let's go to Romans 8:7. Because the carnal mind is enmity against Elohim, for it is not subject to the law of Elohim, neither indeed can it be. Our mind in this worldly, fleshly state is enemy to the Creator. If we are enemy to the Father, then we are also an enemy to the Son. James 2:10 states, for whosoever shall keep the whole law, and yet offended at any point, in one point, he is guilty of all. For he that said, do not commit adultery, also said, do not kill. For if thou commit no adultery, yet if thou kill, thou art become a transgressor of the law. We don't get to pick and choose which laws we keep. Yahweh said, walk before me and be ye perfect. That word perfect means complete. It means whole. We can't say murder is wrong, but it's okay to be gay. It's okay to be a homosexual. We can't say that. We can't say eat pork. We can't say we can't eat pork, but it's okay to eat crabs and shrimp, because pork is a filthy animal, so we can't eat that. But we can eat crabs, we can eat shrimp. We have a strong connection with this flesh, and we are tempted by the things of the flesh. But even when we are tempted, we shouldn't break laws. We shouldn't break those laws, because Mashiach didn't. He was in this flesh. He went through all the things that we went through, but yet he never sinned. And if he is our example, then we ought to do as he did. Hebrews 4:15 says, "For we have not an high priest which cannot be touched with the feeling of our infirmities, but was in all points tempted, like as we are, yet without sin." He went through everything that we went through. He knew what it was to want to be with a woman. But he had a higher duty, a higher sense. He knew that he had a mission to take care of. So he was about his Father's work. Do you not think that he got angry at those Pharisees that constantly tempted him and constantly tried to trip him up in his ways, and constantly tested him? You don't think that he got anger towards them? But he controlled it. He didn't sin. He didn't pull out a sword or anything, or attack them in any way, except for the time in the temple when, he flipped over the table and this, that, and another. But that was written about him. That was to fulfill prophecy. They're saying he had zeal for his Father's house. But he went through the things that we went through. So, yes, he was perfect. Yes, he overcame. Hebrews 9:22. "And almost all things are by the law purged with blood, and without shedding of blood is no remission." This is the reason why Mashiach gave his life. Without his blood, there would be no pardon. For those people who think that you can go straight to the Father, you can't. The blood of Mashiach is the blood of Yahusha, is how we have a connection with the Father again. Ask anybody, what do they mean when they say, the blood has covered my sins, or I'm forgiven by the blood? If they know they're forgiven, yet they continue to go beyond the limits of the law willfully, then they make the work of Mashiach no effect in their lives. It's like you just nullified everything he did, but yet you're trying to claim him. We're going to continue this lesson on the next part, and for now, until part 2, I'll bid you shalom.